Included with the reports given to you after you've completed your ISQ surveys is the Behavior Support Report. This report examines all the elements of both effective instruction and effective management that the school uses to support appropriate student behavior, to keep teachers happy with their job, and to bring parents into the process of helping with the education of their child. You can see that this information is broken down into 5 separate components for each of the 3 audiences: parents, teachers, and students. And the 5 elements are clear behavioral expectations, trusting relationships with the school, opportunities to build both social and academic skills, and finally, sufficient rewards and recognition to support those behaviors. We code it in the same way as we do the other reports using signal analysis. So you'll see red, yellow, green, and purple as a means to provide information or feedback on how well the school is doing on each of these areas. Prior research has demonstrated how important the student line is in predicting AYP progress, student outcomes, as well as exposing any achievement gap between subpopulations that the school provides education to. The front page gives you an overall look at how well the school's doing. In this case, we can see a school where the students feel like there's not sufficient reward at the school for what they're doing. This report also indicates that the teachers feel like they don't have enough training to provide sufficient social skills at the school. And last but not least, the parents feel like everything's going pretty well, but they would like more feedback on their child's academic progress. The back page is a disaggregate of the student data alone. So all the information we see on the back page is taken from the student responses. This page takes the elements now and puts them across the top of the document. So you have clear expectations, trusting relations, skills, and rewards across the top of the page. And then the whole school and disaggregate groups from the sample down the side. So the top line we can see says all students. And we can see from this that almost 1,000 students at this fictitious high school responded to the survey. You can see their grade on clear expectations, trusting relationships, and so on. And in fact, that top row of bubbles, yellow, green, green, yellow, red, are the same bubbles we see down this column on the front page. Yellow, green, green, yellow, red. So it's the same information. You can see also that the students are broken up by ethnicity. In this case, we've just labeled the ethnicities 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the number of students that claim to be a member of that ethnic group. And then you can see how each group did in those behavioral aspects across the top here. And we can see for the first ethnicity that everything but rewards and recognition are green, all the way down to the last, which is a group that seems to be having more problems at the school, and they report that they don't have trusting relationships with the adults at the school and also feel lack of reward, and they struggle with academics as well. We also disaggregate by gender, so you see male versus female. And then last but not least, we actually have information about 4 separate risk groups, and these risk groups are determined by the students themselves. So they report on their ISQ survey that they have a lack of home support, that they misbehave, that they feel unsafe, or that they dislike school completely. Believe it or not, these groups don't overlap nearly as much as you would think. Any 2 of these groups may overlap maybe a quarter of the students. So it's not a large overlap. So these are 4 fairly distinct at-risk audiences. The last column that I'm going to describe to you I think is the most important column. This is the percentage of students who report that expectations are clear and that they have trusting relationships and that they have opportunities to build skills socially and academically and that they see enough reward and recognition for doing the right things. So these are students who report yes to all of those, and that's why it's called the percent all elements. And in this case, for the overall school, 41% of the students claim to have reported yes, all the elements are present in abundance for them. It's this number that correlates very, very highly with academic achievement. In fact, this number alone accounts for more than 2/3 of the variance we see in test scores for language arts, for science, and for mathematics. So this is a very, very important number in terms of predicting academic outcomes at the school. It also can expose achievement gaps between ethnicities here, gender gaps here, and highlights the level of risk that students have when they present themselves as being a member of these different risk categories. We can see here in this particular instance that this top ethnic group happens to be doing extremely well. 51% of these kids report having all 4 elements available to them, and that puts them actually in a purple category. That's a very, very high score for a secondary school and a relatively high score for an elementary school. All the way down to this last group where only 27% of the kids report this. You can see in all of the risk groups that a very small number of the kids report that all 4 elements are available to them, confirming the fact that poor home support, feeling unsafe, misbehaving, and disliking school are profound risk factors and will affect their academic scores.